Hi, I'm Jim, and I'm a professional linguist. So we had so much footage last week that we just decided we would use some of it this week rather than shoot a new video this week because I thought it was really important, but we just shot too much. It just ended up being really long. I had a hard enough time cutting it down to what I cut it down to last week. So this week is mostly tips for constructing a thesis that you might use, like tools for you to use to construct a thesis. Becca's not here this week because she wasn't feeling well. Hopefully she'll be around next week. But she is in the footage because the footage is just from last week. So hopefully you enjoy it. Hopefully it's useful to you. All right, enjoy.
What I do with my students sometimes is I make them use a thesis generator. Now, some teachers will not allow you to do this. They'll think it's sort of cheating. In my opinion, you've got to come up with the content that you put into the generator, and all the generator does is organizes it in a means that's logical and argumentative.
But like something like this, you probably shouldn't just plug it in and then copy and paste the thesis.
Exactly.
Like you should realize what it's doing and then see if you can do something similar or, kind of do things in your own words, or just use it as an example of like how a thesis is generated so that you can go back and then do it yourself, right?
Yes. There's one I did, actually, in my class with my students. And let's see if I can find it. We were writing about an article summary analysis. So my students had 2 articles. They had to summarize and evaluate both of the articles. And the struggle with article summary analysis is that my students are always tempted to write about the article's topic, not about the article itself. Whenever you are analyzing an article, your thesis statement is not their thesis statement.
Right.
You're writing about the writing of that article, not the topic of that article.
Once again, you want to do something original. And if you're just rehashing their thesis, then you're not doing anything original.
Exactly. And I mean, especially for a summary evaluation, your point, your paper is evaluating the quality of the article, not the article's subject. So the articles are about climate change. And I was getting a lot of theses about climate change, when in reality they should have been about the quality of the writing reporting on climate change. And so what we did was I took, I guess, the bare bones of what a thesis would be for them, and I plugged it into a thesis generator, and we came up with this thesis. So I'll read the thesis, and then I'll show you kind of how we put it in to get this organization. So all of these words are my words. All that the generator did was organize them. And we came up with this. Even though flash flooding has become more common in the UK, Karen Harman presents a stronger argument for the effects of global warming than the reporter Matt McGrath, because McGrath's article is too dramatic and he appeals to emotion over logic, whereas Harman uses credible sources and presents her topic in a responsible manner. The generator asks for a few basic pieces. It says, what's the topic you're about to write about? What's your main opinion on this topic? So what is the solution, right? The main opinion is, you've got a topic, what did you come up with? What are the results of your tests? What are the conclusions you've come to? What is the argument you were trying to make? And that argument was that Karen Harman's article was better than Matt McGrath's article, essentially. That was the argument. What's the strongest argument supporting your opinion? What's the second strongest argument supporting your opinion? What is the main argument against your opinion? And this is key, I think, for a lot of argumentative essays. And then they ask for the title. So I plugged in simple things, right? My main opinion, Catherine Harman presents a stronger argument for the effects of global warming than the reporter Matt McGrath. That was it. Those were my conclusions.
Sure.
My strongest argument for her was that Harman uses credible sources and presents her topic in a responsible manner. My second strongest was Matt McGrath's article is too dramatic and he appeals to emotion over logic. And then the strongest one against my argument was that flash flooding has become more common in the UK. Put them all in there, and the organizer did this. It took the strongest argument against my claims and put it first. Which is why you begin with, even though.
Right.
It looks very responsible. It shows your reader that you are giving them the other side, you're giving them the other opinion, you're not biased. So even though, argument against, and then it gives the solution, it gives the second strongest argument, and then it ends with the strongest argument. Alright, so what else do you want to say about theses?
Okay, so one thing that students often have an issue with is that, like, if you write your paper, right, so you have this thesis, and you say, okay, that's what my paper's about. And then you write your paper. Always reread your work. Always reread your work.
Always.
You should reread the last draft of your work. If you change something, you should go back and read it again. But always reread your work, and then if you read it and you say, this paper doesn't really argue what my thesis said it was going to argue. What you should do is change your thesis, and then you need to change the paper, because obviously the start of your paper, when you were trying to argue your thesis, no longer argues your new thesis, so you should go and revise it some more. But don't be afraid to rewrite stuff. Rewriting stuff is part of writing stuff.
It is.
One trick you can do with a thesis is go ahead and, if you have a friend who you're willing to work with, give them everything in your paper except your introduction, or except your thesis or something, and then ask them to write your thesis for you.
Oh gosh.
And then, if their thesis is drastically different from your thesis, there's probably something wrong.
Oh, I'm so making my students do that. That's a really good idea. I mean, I would not let them use their friend's thesis.
No, you wouldn't let them use it. But there's something wrong because something in their paper is pointing to something else besides what they wanted to argue.
No, that's good. That's really good. I like that a lot.
Yeah. All right, so that was it. So hopefully those tools were useful to you, and you'll have an easier time constructing a thesis in the future. I do want to point out, with regards to the Thesis Generator thing, that it is important to realize that the best part about that tool is just it taking what you want to do and showing you how you can make a thesis. Not that you should just copy and paste the thesis into your paper. And furthermore, and this is really important, we did mention that some teachers might consider that cheating. If your teacher considers it cheating, do not do it. Don't cheat. The first rule of being a student is do what your teacher tells you to do. If your teacher says that's a no-go, it's a no-go. Be aware that that might be a thing that they don't agree with, and if they don't, then you should not use it. But for your own sort of purposes, at least, sort of getting to know what a thesis is, you could play around with it with a couple of different topics and ideas and see how a thesis gets sort of constructed there. It's always better to come up with one on your own, obviously, but it's a good starting point. Next week, we're going to talk about Toolman logic, which is also sort of relevant to constructing a thesis and writing a paper and all of that stuff, so that should be fun and interesting. Also, I am launching another channel. It's going to be a channel talking about stuff in nerd culture, video games, comics, that type of thing. Mostly looking at questions about those things and trying to answer them. Why does this happen? Where did these things come from? That type of thing. I think it'll be interesting. I need a name for it, for this channel. So if you guys have any ideas of what to call the channel, so if you guys have any ideas for what to call it, I've been struggling with a title for it. I want to get started on that soon. I don't know if those videos will be weekly or not. They will be however long it takes me to make them. I have other things I need to do too, and even this channel is actually becoming a bit of work to make sure I push out a video every week for. So, also, this is important. This week, as in from the time this video comes out to next Monday, is the last chance you have to vote for what book we're going to be covering with our sort of like mini lit course. Right now, Perks of Being a Wallflower, I think, is ahead by 1 vote. In any case, I will see you guys next week with Becca, hopefully. Bye.